My father and brothers, I'm Father Fodi, and it's such a joy and humbling excitement to welcome all of you to our class together on the Orthodox Church and the Byzantine Empire. Before we begin, let's pray together. O Heavenly King, Comforter, Spirit of Truth, who art everywhere present and fillest all things, treasury of good things and giver of life, come and dwell in us, cleanse us from all impurity, and save our souls, O good one. Father Alexander Schmemann, in his book, The Historical Road of Eastern Orthodoxy, writes that Byzantium not only continues to live in the Orthodox Church, but in a sense, still defines Orthodoxy itself. For example, he says that the development of the rule of worship was completed in Byzantium, a rule which makes it a system permitting almost no progress or change. The Byzantine typicons and euchologia of the 13th and 14th century differ hardly at all, he writes, from our own missals and rule books. The Orthodox icon is painted in accordance with the Byzantine tradition. Our canonical tradition was fixed in both volume and interpretation by Byzantine canonists. The patristic heritage, which has now been the basis of Orthodox theology, was given final shape in Byzantium. And there first flowered the manner and spirit of Orthodox piety, which is best expressed in Russian by the word "cerkovnost" or churchness. And so he concludes that the Byzantine period must be acknowledged as decisive in the history of orthodoxy, as the age of the crystallization of church life. The modern Orthodox Church is, from the viewpoint of history, the Church of Byzantium. Astonishingly, in view of the importance of Byzantium to the Church, Schmemann tells us that, quote, there exists no history of the Byzantine Church in the full sense of that word, which would both describe and try to comprehend this phenomenon in its totality. And so, our job, by God's good grace and the few weeks that we'll have together, is to make an attempt to begin to do just that, to describe and to comprehend this extraordinary period of the Orthodox Church in the Byzantine Empire. Uh, Before we um, go to our syllabus, permit me, if I may, just to take a moment to introduce myself to you so you'll know a little bit about me and my background. And I am looking forward shortly, actually, to getting to acquainted and to know each of you as well. And what a blessing it is for me to be able to have our lives intersect this way in God's good providence. Um, First, then about me, I grew up in Princeton, New Jersey, as I'm sure many of you did, a Protestant, certainly not an Orthodox. In fact, far from it. I really had never heard of the Orthodox Church. I did my undergraduate work at Wheaton College in Illinois. I was a biblical studies major there. And I began my seminary work in Edinburgh University in Edinburgh, Scotland, which I then completed at the Westminster Theological Seminary in Philadelphia. After that, I went to Basel, Switzerland, and did 3 years of doctoral studies there in the New Testament under Professor Bo Reika, and completed all of my work except for my dissertation, and My professor died as I was completing my dissertation, and his Nachfolger, as they say in German, or his successor, said that in order for him to approve my dissertation, it had to reflect his theological views. And since he was a hardened Pulpmanian, I knew that that would never happen. While I was in Basel, however, I enjoyed preaching in the Schweizerische Reformierte Kirche, which is the Swiss Reformed Church. It's the state church there, where it was permissible to say from the pulpit, I don't believe in God. In other words, anything was permissible. And so I preached there on a weekly basis um, in German. And later, I became a Presbyterian minister. Um, and what else? Um, I think it's important that my main focus and my main interest, really, since God took hold of my life at the age of 17, was to find the church that I had been reading about in the New Testament. And I knew that whatever that church was, it wasn't the Presbyterian Church, it wasn't the Protestant churches with which I was familiar, and it wasn't the Catholic Church either. And that was the scope, regrettably, of of my search. But thankfully, that changed in the 1990s in a remarkable way, where God introduced me really forcefully, but without leaving it up to my free will, which is why it took me so much longer after He showed me at long last the Orthodox Church. And that's a story in itself, perhaps for another time. Um, Later, I was hugely blessed to be able to fill in some of the Orthodox holes in my education by studying, first of all, at St. Tikhon's Seminary from 2008 to 2010, primarily under my theological mentor in patristics, Christopher Vinneman. And then also later in the last part of from 2018 to 2019, I studied at Holy Trinity Seminary at Jordanville, where I focused, among other things, on church history. Fun fact for me is that I played Division III ice hockey in college, and an ongoing hobby of mine is hiking. The older we get, the fewer hobbies we can do. Thank God. Today, my wife, decidedly my better half, Matushka Fotini, and I serve in the mission parish in Morris, New York, the Orthodox Chapel of the Seven Holy Youths of Ephesus. And Morris, for those of you who don't know, and I suspect most of you don't know, is in the Cooperstown, where the Baseball Hall of Fame is, for any baseball fans, and Oneonta, that area. We're about 45 minutes south of Jordanville, if you've been there. And in any case, when you come to this area, we hope you'll come and visit us as well. So let's have a look now at the syllabus that has been posted on Populi. Um, and So you'll find that on Populi. And I won't go over all of this because you can read it. Well, let me just pick up on page 2. We will, over the next weeks, explore the profound and complex relationship between the Orthodox Church and the Byzantine state. More than just a political entity, the Byzantine Empire was a Christian empire where the Orthodox Church was not merely an institution, but the very soul of society. This course will examine the Orthodox Church's development from its early roots to its central role in Byzantine life. We'll delve into pivotal moments, including the great theological controversies that define Christian doctrine, beginning with the Council of Nicaea in 325, the rise of monasticism, spearheaded really by St. Anthony the Great, and we'll be reading his classic by St. Athanasius, The Life of Antony. The monumental schism with the West, and what led up to that and precipitated that. And finally, the church's influence on art, culture, and imperial policy. By the end of this course, you'll have a deep, God willing understanding of how the Orthodox Church shaped the empire and how the empire, in turn, shaped the church. We will see how this unique synthesis of faith and power created a legacy that continues to resonate today, not only in the Eastern Orthodox Church world, but also in the broader history of Christian civilization. I encourage you to come to class ready to engage with challenging ideas and discover a history that is as rich and intricate as the mosaics of Hagia Sophia, the Church of Holy Wisdom, built under Justinian in the great city of Constantinople. And you will see in your syllabus a picture of that great city on page 1, surrounded by water on 3 sides, walled on the 4th, a wonderful place for the preservation of an empire that would last over 1,000 years. Think about that, 1,000 years. And then on page 2, an example of the mosaics of Hagia Sophia, where you have uh, Constantine the Great on the right as you look at the picture, holding a model of the city of Constantinople, and Justinian on the left, a model of the Hagia Sophia. All right, so let's have a look at page 3. Um, Basically, there are 4 components to this class. The first one, worth 50% of your grade, is readings and discussion. And I will be assigning lectures every week at this time, Monday at before 11:59 in a.m., God willing. And readings will be posted there every week by Monday at 11:59. Every student is required to read all of the assigned reading. And I've brought these forward because reader James, you were good enough to point out that, with your work schedule, you didn't have enough time to assimilate that, let alone perhaps even read that before you needed to respond to it on Wednesday. So I've brought the assignments forward 1 week so that you can have time to read it. Also, you will be able to hear the lecture on this material the following week when that is released. And then you'll have until Wednesday of the following week in order to respond. And the response is a simple response, a 100-word mini essay on the question or questions, and normally it will be the latter. There will be questions assigned. Answers must respond specifically to the question, and it's very important that you provide evidence for your statements from the text or from the lecture that you've heard. The next day, by Thursday at 5 p.m., I want each of you to respond to the essays that you've been reading, to respond at least to one, if not two, of the lectures, of the essays that others have contributed with your good thoughts about them. And then on Friday, the next day by 5 p.m., I will post my overall comment thoughts on the discussion. And after that, the discussion for that topic will be closed. And yeah, so that, as I said, will constitute 50% of your grade. So it's important on a week by week basis that you keep up with that. The reading assignments will be taken from primarily from Gregory's Byzantine history, as well as additional supplemental readings that we'll have here and there throughout the course of the semester. Um, that's number one, reading and discussion. Number two are papers. There are three assigned papers, each of which account for 10% of your grade. The first paper is called History or Hollywood. How historical is history? And one of you, um, I think Reader Luke, it was you who contacted me to let me know of the uh, a biased point of view with which Gregory writes. And indeed, it's important for us to realize that all of us bring our own presuppositions, our own prejudices to everything that we do and say and write. And uh, and so because of that, we need to read with discrimination. And this paper will help us to focus on that. This essay will not only be your critical analysis of the film, Constantine and the Cross, and you click on that link to access that, but will also provide you with an opportunity for a deeper dive into examining the historical reliability of sources, be they film or written. Include in your analysis an account of the martyrdom of a saint during this period of time. For example, Evdoxius under Maximian Galerius in 311. What are some of the factors we need to be aware of in examining the historical reliability of different texts? For example, if a writer says that there's such and such an empire called for an end to martyrdoms, and we find many martyrs being killed during this time, we obviously know that that is a spurious comment. This paper will be due um, in a few weeks, Friday, September 26th at 5 p.m. There's not a great deal of time for it because it's not a book. You just need to read a movie and engage in the readings that we will have for your response to that. The second essay we uh, will do is a book review, a primary source book review. As I mentioned earlier, Saint Athanasius, the great life of Antony. What are some of the lessons the great theologian and preserver of orthodoxy Athanasius learned from Anthony? Include in your essay your thoughts on the emergence of mass monasticism, because it was this book that really, in a sense, propelled monasticism. Um, the importance of monasticism in Byzantium and its ongoing significance, its being monasticism's ongoing significance in the church today, which is really obviously one of the unique features of the church. And that'll be due on October 24th um, at 5 p.m. as well. And the final paper, these papers, by the way, are 5 pages, double spaced, um, but it will be on St. Photius the Great, um, his wonderful mystagogy of the Holy Spirit. And you will provide a theological and historical analysis focusing on this patriarch of Constantinople's case against the Filioque, some of its historical background, as well as his case against it. And you will give your assessment of his argument. This paper is going to be due on November 21st at 5 p.m. The week before our Thanksgiving break. Papers, as I said, are to be 5 pages in length using 12-point times New Roman font, double spacing, 1 inch margin all around. Write your papers using Microsoft Word and submit electronically by the due date. Late papers will be penalized, so you want to start all of your work in good time. It's expected, obviously, that your work is your own based on the assigned text without the use of AI. And Deacon Theodotus and I were kind of uh, shaking our heads in wonderment how somebody studying for the diaconate or for the priesthood would want to um, to cheat in that way. But essays that are used relying on AI are fairly identifiable. And I encourage you. Our goal is to improve, is to learn, and above all, our goal is humility, to humble ourselves before the Lord, even as He is humble, that we could truly learn of Him in our lives. Um, all right. It's important also to note that the reading required for papers 2 and 3 is to be done at your own pace, although I will be assigning sections of it so that you won't fall behind because the um, the sin of procrastination is one I struggle with, and so I want to encourage you to not leave this to the end, especially the reading of these books. Um, and 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 for the first paper, there is no assigned readings apart from chapters 1 through 3 of Gregory. And then the third component is a final take-home essay in lieu of a final exam. So you won't have a final exam, but you will have a final take-home essay. This essay will be a little bit longer to give you an opportunity to develop the themes and your thoughts a little bit more completely and more deeply. This essay then will be 8 to 10 pages in length in the format cited above for papers, and it will account for 20% of your final grade. And that will be due January 2nd at 5 p.m. Before uh, before the Nativity feast. You have an opportunity to choose your topic, one of two topics for your take-home essay. The first is to describe and analyze the key factors contributing to the Christian East and Christian West parting ways, which is a very, very obviously important aspect of our studies together. The other choice that you have is is one responding to, not responding to, but Alexander Schmemann's comment: the modern Orthodox Church is, from the viewpoint of history, the Church of Byzantium. I've quoted this already earlier. And so, what I would like for you to do in this paper, if you choose this one, is to focus on the areas of theology, monasticism, worship, and church art to describe how the Orthodox Church today is indeed the product of Byzantium. And then the last aspect of our course together, I think, is a very, very important one because it's one where, God willing, we'll be able to get to know each other better, more deeply. In your questions, we can respond and just talk, sit down and have a round table discussion. This is 10% of extra credit grade. So you don't lose anything if you don't wish to partake, but you have an opportunity to earn 10% of extra credit. Every month, we will try to meet together live on Zoom to share, discuss, and ask questions on any matter that we've covered so far. Because we live in different time zones and even different countries, these discussions are voluntary, but all those making at least 3 of the 5 roundtables will earn, just for being there and participating, an additional 10% of credit, extra credit. Roundtables will be scheduled on a monthly basis at a time most convenient for us, for all of us. And but because I absolutely know that there will be conflicts, those that are not able to attend, uh, uh, you'll have an opportunity to make up that attendance in different ways as you let me know about your situation. And of course, it'll probably take us a little bit to get into the groove to find a time most convenient for all of us. The first roundtable is going to be this next week, Monday, September 15th, Central at 6 o'clock Central Standard Time. And it is for the purpose of meeting each other and entertaining any questions or comments that you have that we have so far. Required texts: Athanasius' Life of Antony, Gregory's History of Byzantium, and Photios is the mystagogy of the Holy Spirit. Um, and this is an example. I'm sure you have lots of questions already, and you can't ask it because we are these are recorded lectures. And so hopefully our roundtable discussions will do a lot to ameliorate that really deficiency. There are so many blessings about being able to study online, but surely that is a deficiency. Um, all right, and the readings for next week have also been posted. If you look at the lessons, you'll see that assignment there. Um, and again, I'm so thankful to God and to you for the opportunity for us to get to know for me to get to know each of you as we study together this decisive and foundational period of history in our church, the history of Byzantium. May God bless you all. Let's stand as we close together in prayer. It is truly meet to bless thee, the Theotokos, ever blessed and most blameless and Mother of our God, more honorable than the cherubim, and beyond compare more glorious than the seraphim, who without corruption gave his birth to God, the Word, the very Theotokos, thee do we magnify. Thank you, and I'll look forward to seeing you, God willing, soon. Bye bye.